According to our 2025 developer survey, 23% of developers regularly use AI agents, while 8% of them use them infrequently. I'm Paul Nashawaty, practicing and principal analyst for application development, and I'm joined by Carlos today from name.com. Carlos, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Great to have you on. Excited to talk to you about this. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and a little bit about name.com?
Yeah, my name's Carlos. As you mentioned, I'm the head of product at name.com. Been here about 5 years, and name.com is a domain registrar, and we're really focused on moving the industry in order to be one of the first AI native registrars and kind of bring domains to the AI era.
Awesome. Well, it really is exciting because when we talk about, the AI agents, people are moving away from experimental to real world adoption, right? And the very idea of what it means to build online is really being redefined, right? So no longer limited to like human clicks or forms. Agents are being developed and put in place to manage critical tasks like domain ownership and digital identity, right, on our behalf. So this shifts and really raises new questions about trust, constraints, security, and also user experience. So we have to look at ways to unlock fresh workloads for developers that really help creators build, transact, and scale entirely new ways. And that's really what's happening in this agentic web, agentic world that we're living in. And we have these agentic agents that seamlessly and securely access the digital world. So Carlos, I want to jump right in, right? I want to talk about your take, and when we think about AI agents and the fundamental changing of building online and what this means for building and managing digital presence, how does this compare to traditional models of human-led interactions?
Definitely. The best way I think about this is how I got excited about the space. And if I zoom out to only just a year ago, I remember around the time ChatGPT 4.0, Claude 3.5 came out, and it really went from really simple AI interactions to these reasoning models that helped people take something very, very simple and build full applications. So when I started to see that in the industry, I realized that the barrier to building has gone down tremendously, and it's really on the back of these AI agents. So with that, it kind of reminded me when in the 90s, the first time I got my hands on a computer and I was using GeoCities, and I'm like, I can build anything. And over time, we started to get the Wixes of the world and the Squarespaces, and building online really started to get into this templatized kind of format. If you were a developer, you could build more custom solutions, but it really created this distinction between non-technical users who were building with templates and technical users who could build custom complex solutions, but it took quite a while. With the introduction of AI agents, these barriers kind of crumbled, the lines started to blur, and I saw a lot of users across the spectrum of skill set being able to build online anything they could imagine. The first time I have a standing desk that I hardly use, and I was like, I'm going to build a standing desk app that tracks the time, puts my metrics up on a dashboard, does all these incredible things. And when we started to see this as a domain registrar, we kind of are the atomic unit to identity and getting published to the web. And we're like, we need to dive into this. We need to help enable this new agentic way of building. And when that happened, really, I summarize it, we moved from interfaces to intent. And if you can explain what you want to build, if you want to get users to solve user problems and those kinds of things, you don't have to worry about these constraints that these templatized products are there anymore. You could actually go with intent and focus on user needs. And that shift really opened the door for us to focus in this area.
Well, first off, I want to get that app around the standing desk because I think I need that myself. So I think that's really cool. Yeah. But no, I think, look, I hear you. I mean, when we look at product decisions and a shift behind it, you're right. I mean, it's faster, it's quicker. Access to data is happening very, very rapidly. We see with the introduction of MCP and agents, we see pulling data from heritage systems to new systems, moving from digital experiences that we had in the past to new digital experiences with new systems of engagement. So these things are really really kind of driving a lot, but there's a lot of things that are happening specifically behind the scenes. So let's talk about some of the challenges. When we look at the number of applications that are being created, it's significant, right? And the number of environments that are being created is even more significant because that data is just out there. But what are the challenges behind the scenes when we look at product decisions and enabling agents to really manage the domains? And specifically, I think we should talk about here with the audience, talk about, trust. You mentioned constraints quite a bit on the last response, but security and user experience are also key areas that are important, especially if things are changing.
Definitely. I think the first piece of it is starting on proven and trusted rails. Something that every company should be thinking about with AI agents that are taking action on user behalf is trust and security. And when you can start off of a system like name.com's API, where we have over 2 million domains under management and trusted partners using our API for a decade plus, it gives you a good framework where, okay, how do we shift from this proven technology and start embedding and using AI agents to make it more efficient, to make it more secure, to make it easier to embed in existing workflows and simplify the life of developers and agents and all these things. Something that I've been pushing the team to think about really is the agent should be a stakeholder as well. But if you're not building good products for developers, you're also not building good products for agents. We use this coin term DX and AX, developer experience and agent experience. And if you're not building a trusted platform, a secure platform with good error handling, that's not going to be good for developers to start off with. And it's going to be even worse for agents because they might not be skilled as a senior developer who knows how to work with APIs, who knows how to work with all the different things that are involved with integrating, domains into your current platform. So when that transition happened, we really need to think about where are the points of friction even for developers? Where are they getting caught up? Do we have proper error handling? All the things that make a developer's life easier is really going to make an agent's life easier as well. And when you think about trust, developers are the best early adopters for us because they're going to help us build a trusted, secure platform. When they say, hey, we're worried about this issue, we see this is this is an issue. Can you improve OAuth? Can you improve token handling? These are all the things that an agent's not going to tell us to do, but we can really build it in mind for agents. So we kind of see it as this symbiotic relationship between the developer and the agent. And because we're working with some of the most trusted partners in the space right now, partners like Netlify and Vercel and Bolt and Replit, they're really helping us make sure that when the adopters that aren't as technical come along and start using our agents, we've built a really secure, robust system that really solves all those problems you mentioned.
Carlos, that makes a lot of sense. And when I think about what you're talking about, often when I'm talking about my practice, I talk about the context of past, present, and future, right? And it's important to understand. You touched on a number of things. All the elements to stand up the environment. It took a lot of effort in the past. This was not this is not trivial at all. This was the infrastructure changes, the shifts that are occurring. It could take a long time to set this up. So the developer experience was a lot about the mechanics of setting it up. So I want to pivot to what I would call a present state, right? In a present state, we see when moving from heritage environments to new modern kind of approaches. And we talk about in the context of, say, we talk about domains. We start with domains and domain management. Domain management was not easy just a few years ago, right? You had to stand something up, and then you had to put all the pieces in place, whether it was the networking or the resources, the configurations, the firewalls, whatever it may be. All that stuff took a lot of effort to think about. But when we think about domain management and we think about it in the context today of automation, we think about it in workflows, right? We think about it in the context of how can we put a template in place that you roll it out quickly. So what from your perspective, why is domain management the logical first step when it comes to like automation? And then what, like I mentioned all these infrastructure pieces, what infrastructure changes or industry shifts really happen to make that possible?
Yeah, I think something I want to double click on that was interesting what you said, which was like domain management not being simple. And I think overall in the industry, people think domains are simple. It's this text field, you put it in the browser, it resolves to your domain. But you're absolutely correct. There's all these pieces behind the scene that when you're building your application, especially with these vibe coded platforms now, and you're typing your intent and you're telling it all these different prompts to be able to build something, you've done all these really complex things, and it comes time to just deploy your site. And what is seemingly simple, something gets caught up, DNS gets misconfigured, the SSL isn't properly provisioned. And all of a sudden you're like, my application's not online. And it's arguably what should have been one of the simplest steps. So what makes it a great application for automation with AI agents is the fact that it's mostly the different workflows and the different things you need to do with a domain are pretty finite, and they're very predictable. So in order to be able to set up DNS, set up your SSL, and all of these things, we can really help curate an AI experience, the AI agents, to make sure that they handle those specific tasks really, really well. And what used to be clunky interfaces, even though all these different registrars do relatively the same thing when it comes to domain management, you have all these different interfaces, maybe designed in the 90s or early 2000s, haven't changed all that much. AI agents offer this new interface that you don't really need to know, like all the different things that you're going to see in domain management. And when you see a column that says TTL or hostname or these things, you're just like, yeah, that's fine. I don't even need to know because my agent understands that for me. So as far as how the industry has had to shift, well, if your technology and your stack was archaic and built on SOAP APIs with XML media formats and all of these things that, you know, I'm sure some of your listeners know and go, oh yeah, I used to work on that. It's going to be really hard to get an AI agent to use your existing infrastructure to really be able to do these things. Fortunately, we've been built on a more modern stack with a REST API that uses JSON. And when you look at a lot of these companies that are building AI agents or their developers, they're using more modern frameworks like on JavaScript and TypeScript and these kinds of things, which is what the agents are being built on. If the agents are being built on these more modern frameworks, you also want your tech stack to be built on these modern frameworks. And Name.com, fortunately, was in a great position to be able to quickly shift over. And from our customers, we know that 91% of our users expect AI to help manage their DNS and their domains in the next 2 years. And when we hear that from our customers, no matter what, we need to go and solve that for them.
You hit on a number of things here. Well, one thing I really like you hit on, Carlos, was the fact that you're built on a modern architecture. You're built on, you know, using JSON, using REST APIs versus using heritage ways of doing things. Really allows for that modernization efforts to really kind of take place and form new ways. But let's debunk something right away, because I think this is something that a lot of people get confused and concerned about. AI is not taking jobs away, right? And what I mean by that is there's new workflows and creativity that allows for AI to, allows for the developers to come in and do the work that they want to do, which is innovate versus do the maintenance, right? And I also want to add some stats here, right? So what we also find in our research, we see that 67% of organizations are hiring generalists over specialists. And that is largely due to the fact that it's hard to find people. The skill gap's a real issue. And then also complexity is a real issue. So you address those two things, skill gap and complexity, because if you have AI agents doing some of this, underlying pieces and configuration that you don't have to really think about, you can have a generalist do the work. The second thing I want to address here is usually what we're seeing, what we're hearing with the explosion of resource and productivity around AI, application development is happening not just with a professional developer, but it's happening at the line of business. So if organizations in finance and marketing and sales and whatever, if they have the right governance, compliance, and regulations in place, they can do their own work. So let me ask you this, from an agent perspective, how do agent-driven workflows really unlock the opportunities for these new developers as well as existing developers and creators to move beyond the browsing of actual building, transacting, and scaling projects really throughout the entire agent process? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I think you said a lot of interesting things there. And one thing I want to add is this idea of who the new builders are, the modern builders. Not only, I said it at the beginning where barriers are going away, but I see product managers prototyping with these tools and building. I see marketing teams building with these tools and submitting PRs in the future. I'm really excited about who the new builder can be. And for those reasons, we're seeing an insane growth across the need for domains and AI agents that can interact on your behalf, and all of the things we've talked about up to this point. And I mentioned it before as well, but this idea of you don't need to master all these interfaces and tools and things like that, but you need to master intent and think about user needs and solving real world problems. And that's what gets me really excited about this space, where we're going to get more and more builders, engineers, product people, marketers, designers thinking about solving real human needs and less about like exactly how I might set up my DNS as an example, because that's what we're talking about here. Yeah. And when it comes to thinking about in companies and workflows, like you mentioned, well, I've listened to your podcast before, and I think a lot of the focus is always on saving devs time and headaches. And I went to a Cursor meetup here where I live, and I talked to them about how they, with things like MCP and our technology, without ever leaving their coding tool of choice, like their IDE, they could start purchasing and provisioning their domain with their application right within the interface. We are meeting developers and builders where they are today in the tools that they want to be working in today. And that's where I think building as a company, building these AI agents or MCPs or any of these things that help automate workflows becomes really meaningful, because you don't have to do this context switching. And that's where developers lose time and create headaches. And instead of building and solving real human problems, they are trying to remember their username and password somewhere. They're over here messing and clicking on an interface that was poorly designed. And I think if we can promise the ease for builders and creators, we're just going to unlock so much value for these companies that are looking for ways to help their developers, help their teams become more efficient and focus on solving real problems. And I know I've mentioned that a ton of times, but as a head of product, it's all I care about is solving human needs for our customers. And now anyone at my company can do that with these tools. And we want to extend these tools to other people as well to do the same thing.
Okay, so you mentioned a lot there to talk about, and I want to kind of talk about to ask you the question around agentic web, right? What does that mean? Like we talk about agentic, right? Agentic AI, agentic scenarios. What does this mean for product design?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it before. AX, agent experience. Basically, AI is now a stakeholder. And with that comes a lot of new questions about trust, security, what should the AI agents be able to do? And we as a domain registrar want to make sure that our customers feel safe and secure. So while the promise of all these things of automation we've been talking about is great, I don't want to pretend that there isn't risk from making sure that our customers feel safe and that agents aren't doing things that they didn't ask for. And I think everyone's facing this challenge right now. So when I think of the agentic web, the promise is there, building things faster, building things that you never thought you could build. But on the flip side, as product people, as designers, as advocates for a safe web, we have to think about how can we do this safely, securely, and make sure that it's doing what the user actually wants to be done. So I think with the agentic web, it opens a ton of doors, but we need to continue to think about the ways that we can continue to make this safe and secure. So with MCP as an example, today you bring your own credentials, you do all these things, and this is why we're excited about our developers and our partners helping us build our ecosystem. These are the people who are making sure to find any gaps, holes, and things that can help us as we scale and provide domain management to the world, whether you're on ChatGPT or Claude or Anthropic or any of these things. We're going to make sure we do this correctly. And I think that's one of the biggest things with kind of the agentic web right now.
Carlos, very interesting. This is awesome. Lots of information to share, lots of information to talk about here. The audience gives people a lot to think about here on what they should be doing, whether they're on a heritage environment or looking to modernize or just looking to get started new. There's a lot to think about here. So I encourage the audience to reach out to Carlos and myself and continue the conversation. Carlos, thanks again for being here. I really appreciate your insights and your input here. It's really been awesome talking with you. And a big thanks to all of you who've tuned in. We really appreciate you being part of the AppDevANGLE community. But for now, that wraps up this episode. But we'll be back next Wednesday with another conversation diving into the tools, trends, and talents shaping the future of application development. Whether you're deploying at the edge, building an AI, or modernizing your cloud stack, we've got you covered. So be sure to follow us on social if you have any thoughts, questions, or just want to connect. Until next time, stay curious and stay building.